Good evening, friends. I will. I'll go back to you in a minute. We've got Andy in here from the Bràithrean, and we'll speak to you in a moment. So let's just do this first. Yes, it's Jim's Monday Malt Samples back again. I'm not 100% sure. Yes, we'll have a few people in. And what I'm going to do is, this is going to be a bit weird for a minute or two here, because my guests tonight, the brothers from the Bràithrean, have had a bit of a day of it, I believe. So not only have they had a bit of a day of it, I've had a bit of a day of it. So it's all going to, this is going to be very natural, if that makes sense. So first of all, just to get going here, I'm going to bring Andy in. So Andy, welcome.
Hello. Hi, Jim. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
Yeah, very well, very well. Busy day, as you said. It's Brendan's birthday today, actually. So.
I didn't realise that. Well, here.
Yeah. So.
Why not then?
Hello. Speak of the devil.
Guys, I mean, we haven't. This is very natural then, because none of us have met.
No.
Generally, as you, I don't know whether you guys have done many of these things, but generally, I suppose we'll do a bit of a chat, behind the scenes, etc. But nope, this is it. Just us meeting for the first time. So, slant you guys.
Sláinte.
And happy birthday, Brendan.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I know, 26, who believes that?
So here, first question then. Now, I actually had planned on asking, we're going straight off the bat here. I planned on asking some questions or getting a chance to catch up with you maybe before we kicked in, but the Bràithrean, right? Am I pronouncing that right?
Spawn?
Yeah, that's correct, yeah.
Yeah, that's all right, because that was the first question I had to ask. I was not 100%. But, and which one's the older brother?
We had the same question actually a couple of days ago. So the Balls of the brothers, me and Andy, we're just friends. We just met at university, and right. So the Balls are brothers. We're not related at all. I don't know if you can tell.
It's hard to believe.
But hey, guys, listen. First off, it's brilliant to have you here. Thank you very, very much for coming on.
No, thanks for having
and just having a chat. It's something. My review of your Bràithrean 11-year-old, which is almost a thing of the past now, I suppose, will go out this week. My Patreons have seen it, and I think it's going all right. So what I'll do is, before I actually get a chat to use, is I'll go into the chat here. Just, can you guys see the chat all right? Sorry, Andy's pulled a shoot there. But Brendan, can you see the chat?
Yeah, I can, yeah.
You can. Andy will be back, I'm sure. I just want to jump into the chat and say hello to a few people here before we go any further. Neil Laverty was in there, and there's Andy back in. And Whiskey Straight Al, good to see you. Drew from AZ. We'll get back to Drew in a moment.
Okay.
David Owen, Pete Head, Frank, Mark Slinger, Whiskey Pilgrim, Frederick over there in Sweden, David Owen, Luna Aaron in Germany. So we've got we've got a good spread of people here at the minute, and for the chat. And it's just, as I say, guys, I really appreciate you coming in here, because I know you are busy guys.
Yeah, no, at all. No, it's been a bit of a mad day, but that's not our usual business. We're just rushing back from playing golf, and I got a wee surprise birthday gift as well, which I was totally oblivious to the stress that Andy was under trying to organise it all behind my back with restrictions, etc.
Honestly, if I'd have known it was your birthday, Brendan, I probably wouldn't even have asked. Thanks for coming on, buddy.
Not at all. This is the highlight of my birthday, I guess. No nights out, so This is as good as it's gonna get.
Not that bottle of Daft Mill then that we got you then. No.
He's gonna hang it over my head for years. I know he will. Jesus.
Well, listen, guys. As I say, welcome. It's that is news to me. For I actually did think you were brothers, as in it was just one of those things that was in the background that I considered you brothers. It's just a clever idea for an outset. You're so young. This is the bit that gets me, and I'll probably kick on that later. We'll get back into that later. That you know, for guys of your age to be doing what you're doing is scary. Is it scary to you guys? Like,
yes and no. I mean, it's not scary in a sense because we enjoy it, you know. But we enjoy whiskey, and that's the reason we do it. So we're under no pressure. You know, we only buy and bottle stuff that we like and what we think will be interesting, and we only finish what we think will work. So it's not necessarily anything that's sort of scared us as such. It's just a hobby that we've very much enjoyed.
See, you're probably gonna answer a few questions that I was going to ask by answering those questions, because like, before we go much further, like, in your words, give us a history then of Bràithrean. And it's a short history so far, so it shouldn't be that difficult to go that far back to the start. I mean, yet again, as I said, you're young guys, so when did you start, and what gave you the push to do it?
Well, Andy and I started liking whiskey when we were in university, so just like start going tastings, and I guess like most people that like whiskey, the more you find out, the more interesting whiskey becomes, and it's not just this drink that they all taste the same. It's so much more complex. There's so much more to it. So we started to get that sort of interest that most whiskey drinkers do. And then there was one day we bought it was like an Octave collection, the AD Bràithrean release, which was a single cask of, was it Old Pulteney?
Yeah, aye.
Yeah, a single cask of Old Pulteney that had been finished 5 different ways in 5 different octaves, like a rum, Rioja, Oloroso sherry. So did I dip out there?
Oh, you did a wee bit. You're all right, Brendan.
Yeah, sorry. So 5 different finishes from this one single cask, and we just thought it was amazing how different the casks made the flavour and the characteristics of the whiskey. Like 70% of flavour coming from the cask itself. We thought that was like a brilliant. And then trying these side by side, we just kind of were like, well, why is no one doing this? Like with like whiskey, you can buy full bottles, full releases, and you can see, taste, smell the difference between the whiskey. Like, this is something we could do. And at the time, like, we just left university, and we're sat in offices, and although like it's a job and stuff like that, it's not, our passion isn't behind that. So we loved whiskey and didn't have millions of pounds to buy a distillery, so we thought bottling was a good way to go. And we knew we didn't want to come to the table with like another independent bottler that's that doesn't have something different to bring. So we wanted to bring the cask influence in, so that people can try what we tried with like full bottles of whiskey and really get to enjoy the cask influence. But also, like, for people who aren't into whiskey, you can kind of start to narrow down to see what you do and don't like. Like, is it Oloroso sherry? Is it rum that makes the influence that you like? Especially with these mass releases, it's usually a combination, like a vatting of so many. You don't know what's giving you the flavour it likes. So that's kind of like where we started, and then bought our first cask, and the history's still getting created, I guess.
Yeah, surely. I mean, regarding cask purchasing, I mean, I'm sort of getting, well, not getting personal here, but I'm asking questions as somebody who doesn't necessarily, I wouldn't say doesn't necessarily understand independent bottling, but it's for guys starting from scratch. Are you guys, is it all through brokers, or would you go to a distillery themselves that you like and say, we like your whiskey? Do you sell casks or?
I think, that would be the dream, to find a distillery that we like, and you just, you're able to buy a cask from there. But it's really hard, especially being the new guys. You really, to get your foot in the door, it's really difficult. So yeah, to answer your question, it was brokers to start with. You do start as we've been in that industry a while now. You kind of start to open more doors, make more connections and have access to sort of more and better casks. But initially and still, we do use a lot of sort of cask brokers.
No, because that was pretty much the way, or the way you was going to. I was sort of hoping you were answering, Andy, that and Brendan, both, for the simple fact that I don't know. This is new to me, and I imagine. Actually, because I have a list of questions that I've written to ask you guys here, and you are answering questions before I can get to the questions, right? Because it's everybody here. You guys became whiskey fans, yeah. And this is obviously what led you into this, but it's a ballsy step then to want to start to do what you do.
Yeah, definitely. It's I think the idea of having the brother bottles is what's really given us the confidence. We know we're bringing something different. It's not just like another independent bottle, and it is something different. That's kind of maybe giving us a bit of blind confidence, maybe sometimes, but yeah, pretty confident in it. And I just, as Andy said, it's brokers just now, and it seems like if you're going to be buying from distilleries, you really need to be a big boy to be able to buy it from distilleries. That's at a normal price without having to use their label, for example, as well.
I think as well, you said that it's sort of ballsy, but from our point of view, we thought the worst that can happen is we've got a cask and we've got a few hundred bottles that no one wants to buy, and we enjoy whiskey. So it's all about how you frame it, and when you think of it in that way, it's not so scary.
Oh no, 100%. And we're obviously going to get questions coming in here from time to time. There was one from Lynn Aaron there. Any plans on selling on the continent? Just while we go.
Yeah, we sell worldwide at the moment via our website. So we most countries, most places we try and get our bottles to. Although it's sometimes a bit difficult, especially with Brexit and stuff like that. But yeah, we try and sell bottles anywhere. And if anyone can't get a bottle to them or can't manage to get that through the website, just contact us and we'll do our best to try and get it to you.
Well, I know for a fact that you're shipping to America. That's Sarah, because Brendan, it was you and I that contacted each other originally about where that bottle originated from, and it was Drew from Arizona. So we know that as I say, you guys are shipping. So there's no reason why. So that was something else I was going to ask you. Right, you're going through brokers. So the outturn of each, you're limited to what you can get cask size wise as to what the outturn's going to be of each run, basically, I suppose.
Exactly.
And do you now the wee brother, big brother thing? One is it's the period of time, isn't it? Is the difference? One's matured slightly longer, isn't it? Or
yeah, it depends what we want to do. For the Ben Rennes, for example, they're more like twins, you could say. That's more to see the difference of the types of sherry. One brother is always older than the other, even if they're twins, sort of thing. But it just depends on what we want to do and what we want to show from the casks and from the whiskey. 2 out of the 4 have been an age difference, and the other 3, sorry. And the other one has been twins, where it reflects the different types of sherry and how they influence the flavour.
Yeah, and I think we try not to put too much sort of limitations on when to bottle and what to bottle. We tend to try, if we've got something that's re-racked into a different cask, you know, we'll check in that every few months, or every other month, and you know, just when we feel it's ready, that's when we bottle. So we don't really focus on that amount of time, as such, you know.
Yet again, I suppose it's young to use. It's young. This is all new to you guys too, and that. When did you actually start this? I mean, you were established 2019, yeah.
Yeah, established 2019. I mean, you know, we were a wee bit waiting to sort of get our licenses and stuff, and all the relevant HMRC numbers and paperwork and everything that you need to get together, just to be able to enter the business. But yeah, we were 6 months getting all that together, I think. But yeah, I mean, 2019, end of 2019, I think October, and then within 6 months we had our first release up and running. So that was our Kalila.
It begs belief, but for the simple fact that it just, I don't know. I have the utmost respect for you guys for. We haven't even got. I mean, we've only asked a few questions. We've only got to, but it's just the fact that in such a big world of independent bottlers, of distilleries, etc., that, as I say, you have the balls to do it and go out there and do what you're doing. So I'm going to throw out a few things here. Drew, it's a difficult choice. Maybe bottle that, guys. Yeah.
You want to take this one, Brent?
Hi. It's something we try the whiskey ourselves before we bottle and water it down ourselves to see what we would drink it at and what we like. I think Andy and I, from personal experience, like a wee bit stronger than others, but we tend to round up as well for people who might like it even stronger than us, so that you have the option to reduce to whatever you want it to be. I mean, our first release was cask strength, and we liked that, and it was something we considered continuing. But again, as Andy said, we didn't put a lot of limitations or constraints on ourselves, like why just to bottle really high whiskey, like a high strength whiskey, whereas we think it tastes better at this rate. We've given you a bit of margin to add more water if you want. So to answer your question, Drew, we taste it before we bottle it, and then add a bit more on to what we like.
That was something I want to ask. I mean, right, you're not brothers, as we've now asked. But I mean, I work. It doesn't obviously you're close friends, like, and I did work with my brother for years, and obviously, the music business instead. But you're close. There's no denying that. When it comes to suggesting that a cask is right and saying, you know, now's the time. I mean, do you get a lot? Do you agree with that? When, you know, is there
I know exactly what Andy's thinking right off the bat. There is one comment that we had a disagreement on. People have different tastes. Everyone has unique tastes. Definitely, there is always going to be disagreements. I just want to say for this one, I'm right because we had a tasting and everyone else agreed with me. But yeah, definitely have disagreements. I don't know what you think, Andy, but we get on most of the things we agree on in terms of taste of whiskey, though.
Yeah, no, I think we're pretty similar tastes. Again, you know, there's the odd one. You know, we've got one coming out I'll not mention, but you know, I wasn't so sure of it at first, but we've left it in a bit longer. We tried it again recently at a tasting that we did with a small group, and everyone was like, "That was great." And to be honest, it did. You know, it's amazing the difference that the extra few months can make. You know, just leaving it in there for a bit longer, it takes on so much more. When I first tried the one that we're talking about, we'll not mention it because it's a future release, so keep it under wraps. But I just, as I said, I wasn't sure in it, and Brendan loved it. So it does happen. It does happen, but we deal with it in a case by
I
case.
think that was a long-winded way of saying Brendan was right originally.
Brendan was right. I was wrong.
And funny, you hinted upon it there. Is it just you two, or do you reach out to other people for?
Well, it is just us running the business, but we work with other people closely. Like we get photographers to take our pictures of our bottles. I mean, we reach out for help when we need help from friends, family as well, where we need build a good network around us. So although it is just us, we get so much help and support as well from others around us. But what do you say?
The reason I ask is I'm seeing questions, and I'm going to fire some of them at you here from the chat. That I think we're getting access to you guys as, and I keep calling you the new kids on the block. As I said, I'm going to put my review of your Bràithrean 11 out here on Wednesday. Now, there's some people in here who've already seen it, and well, I will tell you it's good. I'll just tell you that much. But it's because we've got access to you guys as the new kids on the block that we couldn't ask. I feel there's questions we can ask you that you wouldn't ask a lot of I wouldn't ask Douglas Lang. I wouldn't ask, because it's how the hell do you do this? It's, so anyway, the reason why I'm saying that is that I seen Luna Arm was asking a question. How long did it take from idea to first bottle? It's a good question.
Brendan, you can explain. I mean, where the idea came from with the, the sister casks and.
Yeah, I'm trying to think that it must have been. Maybe it was at spring of 2019. Maybe.
We talked about buying a cask for a while. Just what we were going to do with that, we weren't really sure.
I think maybe it was spring, but so long story short, the sort of idea process, as I said, we tried the Octave collection and saw how the casks were influenced. Loved that, wanted to showcase that. The sort of the idea of the brothers came from just sort of networking, speaking to other whiskey producers, and I heard this term, sister casks. So that's two casks that are filled next to each other in the same day, like cask 1 and 2, for example. And I thought that was great. And a lot of whiskies, like storytelling, romanticized, etc. We just kind of liked that and thought, well, what if you get sister cask? Why can't you have brother bottles? And that's sort of brought from the idea as well that the whiskies are related, similar, but they have their own characteristics that's shaped by their surroundings. Mm-hmm. So I guess from the sort of idea of wanting to do some sort of whiskey project to all the bottling to like having the final product or the final idea was maybe 6 months of drinking and chatting rubbish, trying to work out what we want to do, really. I don't know. Do you think the same, Andy, or what do you think?
Yeah, no, I would say, I mean, from when we first got into whiskey, we spoke about buying a cask. For what reason? I mean, we hadn't really discussed. It was just about owning a cask of whiskey. We thought it was a cool idea. And then when we talked about the sister casks, and the idea just sort of came from the sort of finishing process as we learned more about that and more about the wood that came and the influence that had on the whiskey. And that's really where the idea came from, as Brendan said. But 6 months, I would say, from when we first started, when we officially sort of registered the business and such. I would say it was 6 months between when we had that and our first release.
That's really
so. It was all pretty quick.
Yeah, that really is. I mean, that's not. I mean, it leads on to this was another question I was looking at. When you buy the cask, are there conditions that come along with it? Is it, and I sort of, when I read this from Neil, I could see where he was coming from, and that you're buying this from a broker.
Mm-hmm.
Is it just do whatever the hell you want, guys? It's yours to do with.
there are sometimes rules for our first release. We like I suppose we should really mention Ben Curtis from the Single Cask. He kind of mentored us and helped things through with us, helped us with everything. So he supplied us with the first cask, and as part of a rule, kind of trickled down from where he purchased his casks from. We had to say that it was supplied by a Single Cask on our first bottling, and we've done that again with Ben Rennis. Mm-hmm. Other rules that we hear as well, like there's lots of secret sort of. I'm sure people have heard of Secret Speyside. You're not allowed to say the name. We've got there's another cask as well. We've got waiting for like probably a long-term bottling that we're not allowed to bottle until it's been bottled by them first. So that's quite a new sort of cask. You get rules with what you can say on the bottle. For example, you can't say it's Kalila. You say it's distilled at. And I think I've also heard, we've never had this, but you need to have, in terms of the sizing of the words, distilled at and Kalila should be the same size. We've not had that restriction put on us yet, but we know other people that have. I can't really think of any other sort of conditions that come along.
No, not really.
It just sounds like a mire. This is the thing that gets me. And do you guys work full time as well? Does somebody say that you guys have full time jobs and this is a passion? Like,
yeah. So we're both aerospace engineers.
Yeah, of course you are.
by day, obviously the aerospace industry's taken a wee bit of a hit as of recent. So, us being placed on furlough one at a time gave us a bit more time to sort of work on it. But no, it is challenging. It's hard work. We do it mainly outside of hours and on the weekends.
I just think that this is something that, I mean, as a whiskey fan, obviously, this was something that I wanted to hit upon. You guys were whiskey fans first, and that you didn't just start this. This didn't, nobody who is an independent bottler wasn't a fan of whiskey. They didn't see a market and go, wow, I'll just start and bottle whiskey independently because people want to drink whiskey. So it's something that you guys have done as a passion because you're full-time employed doing something else. You're doing this as well as a passion. I just think it's mental how you've got into it, and especially because I've seen the product and drank the product, and it's independent bottling in itself, from where I can see it, is a mire, is a quagmire, because you got to find that the like for that product and its own, and you've got to like that product before you can, you guys didn't just go, well, this was something actually I want to hit upon with you, and a question I want to ask is that have you approached, you've been looking for distilleries that you like, or is it just what's available?
No, it's definitely what we like. We'll get out of our comfort zone. We'll try different whiskies that we've never tried, but we've never bought anything that we don't like.
Because Ben Rennis is a rarity almost. It's not something that you don't see Ben Rennis, bottling sitting on the shelf.
No,
by any means. Kalila, yes. Even Glencadam is, and it was just, I thought your timing with the Glencadam was brilliant, because Glencadam 10 has just become very popular again. It just has risen to the top very quickly, and you guys having done an independent bottling of it, I just thought was genius.
Yeah, no, I mean, the Ben Rennis as well. I mean, I don't know if you've tried the Flora and Fauna range that they released.
No, funny, I heard a lot about that, and yours is the only Ben Rennis I've had. So
that Ben Rennis, that Flora and Fauna one is fantastic. and we had tried that. I think you had tried it as well, Brendan. I think before we even had the cask, we had both tried it.
I think I tried. I think it was after a few, so it was a bit of a hazy one. So.
But,
you bought the bottle, did you not?
Yeah. No, I've got the bottle, and there's not very much left. It's one of my favourite whiskies, to be honest. So, I mean, we were thrilled to get the Benrinnes released, and that is one of my favourites. I think the way it turned out, especially the wee brother Benrinnes, I could drink that all night. The Glencadam. You were a big fan of Glencadam before we bottled that, Brendan.
Yeah, like I bought a Glen. I think it was one of the earlier whiskies that I bought, and I loved it. I thought it was totally underappreciated. It didn't really have its place that it should have. And to be able to get the opportunity to get a cask of it, and then even better when we tasted it, I personally thought it was better than the 10-year-old. I just thought it was like this sort of the higher ABV really had that syrupy honey, coat your mouth sort of dram, and that we're pretty buzzing with that one, to be honest with you. We kind of need to. I think Andy's much better at sort of holding back for better casks coming along. Like he always says, like there's always something coming. So whereas I'd be like maybe a bit more keen to jump on something, Andy's like, nah, we'll just wait it out, and it's always worked out, and that's the way it's been. So I would definitely try and hold out for casks rather than just jumping at what's there at the time.
I imagine, and I mean, when I say you're looking at potentially small outturns, it's a bit of a lottery. I mean, you can get a good back cask. You can, and you guys, as I say, are doing something. So it's not just, and this is the bit that I wanted to get to earlier. You get a cask. You're buying a cask, right? And then it's the big brother, wee brother thing. So you're splitting it, yeah. That's to me, and I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. I just think that was very clever because you're doing something that no other independent bottler is doing. This was just something, and the wee brother, big brother thing. This was the Bràithrean. This is what you guys are doing. This is your own independent thing, your own individual thing. Right, you're splitting it. What are you splitting it into? This is a question of a novice here. So you guys are just splitting it into casks of choosing from elsewhere, or?
Yeah. So for example, take the Glencadam. We took half the cask, then we bought a bourbon matured cask and bottled half of that, and that's the wee brother. Bottled that as is, then took the other half of the cask and put it into a heavy char sort of octave, a wee bit bigger than an octave. In terms of, do you mean like sort of like how do we choose? Like what do we choose to put in?
Yeah, because that's not even a case of what you're choosing to put it in. So well, yeah. I mean, also that you are taking it and saying, not only are you taking a cask, so you've picked a cask and said, this is what we want to age, this is what we want to have ours. But then you're deciding to split it again and make 2 other casks of it. So you are having to get those casks from elsewhere, obviously.
Yeah. Well, I guess in terms of choosing it, so far we've got it right. I'm sure the more we want to experiment and try new things and be a bit disruptive, and we're gonna at one point we might get it wrong, but so far like we've got it right, and we were happy with things that turned out. In terms of how we choose, like we usually try and taste it first and go like, well, what do we want to do with this? Do we want to create 2 twins with different finishes? Do we like this as is? I mean, without giving it away, our next release is going to be twins again. We loved it as it was, but we want to do a comparison of 2 different finishes of casks. For the Glencadam, we like the sort of honey aspect. It really gives us really nice honey sort of taste to me anyway. And we wanted to experiment with a heavy char. We thought like honey spice, like it's really sweet. We can try and take some of that sweetness and make it a bit spicy. Let's give it a shot. Because it was a virgin oak cask, we had to monitor it quite closely. And then, in fact, talking of one of the casks, one of the future releases we've got, I think we're trying to almost recreate something that we tasted in the past from a tasting. I think you know the one I'm talking about, Andy. Yeah. I think that's what we're trying to do anyway.
Yeah, no, it all starts from when we get the cask, really. We'll draw a sample, we'll taste it, and we'll take the notes, and we'll think what would work well with us, and we give it a shot. And as Brendan says, if we make a bad one, we make a bad one. But I think we trust our own sort of judgment and our own taste, and we would only bottle what we like.
Yep. There's a question from Drew again. Can you reuse? Did you reuse the Cully Big Brother cask?
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what the future holds.
It's a weird. I think to most of us, and this is maybe, I don't know whether you guys understand this or not, or whether you can do this, but I think to most of us in here are just drinkers. It's a weird world, that the access that you have, what access you have, what access you don't to casks and maturation and what you can do. And it's a I can't help but swear in this case, it's a head fuck. It just messes with my head. Like, that I can't understand where this ends and where you can, because I think it's brilliant. I just think it's what you guys have done. And as I said earlier, I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. I just think it's genius. You've taken something and went, right, let's just split it and give two options here. The options may work for you. They may not. They may be marginally different. They may be massively different. That's up to the drinker. And this is whiskey, isn't it? It all falls on the person that's buying it and the person that's drinking it, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it's not as complicated. It seems complex from the outside sometimes, but from the inside, it's if you just start sort of asking questions about any bottle, and you say, oh, this is made up, like some big bottlings are made up of 60% bourbon casks and 40% sherry casks. We've just gone, well, what are they doing? What's the bourbon giving it? And we've just kind of dissected that, And to be honest with you, Jim, we talked so many times and said, well, why would someone buy from us rather than another independent bottler, another distillery? So we needed to have a reason, and we're glad we got the brothers as the reason, the splitting of the cask, but we had to have something. Otherwise, we'd just be another bottle on the shelf.
Yeah, true. And that was another question I wanted to ask you. As independent bottlers, are there other independent bottlers who maybe, who you aspire to? Was there anybody in particular that you guys went, look, these guys are sort of doing it right. Let's or not necessarily doing it right, but they're doing something that we want to try.
That's a good question, actually. Andy, what do you think?
Yeah, no, that's a really hard question, actually. We're aware of other independent bottlers, and we like other independent bottlers, but I think our full mindset from the beginning is to try and be our own thing, if that makes sense. We're not trying to recreate something that someone's already done. We sort of had this idea of splitting the casks, and we went with it. Yeah, there's some great independent bottlers out there, don't get me wrong. I think, as Brendan just said, we just didn't want to be another bottle on a shelf.
And what about then, right, stepping aside from independent, what about blending? Would you think about, is that another?
I would love to do it. Yeah, we've talked about this before. Brendan, I'm a big fan of blends. Personally, I would love to try it. Although I know it's not, there's a difference between being a big fan of blends and being a blender. So, a massive difference. It's something I would personally love to do in the future. I think you're the same, Brendan.
Yeah, absolutely. And as Andy said, like there is a difference. Like we can taste good whiskey and decide how we're going to finish it, but then being a blender, we've got like any whiskey drinker's got like a massive respect for the skill involved with these guys, and it's not something that we decide to do lightly without any sort of help or guidance. It's something we'd love to do, but we'd want to learn it first and be able to bring something to the table rather than just hope for the best, which doesn't sound like a great idea at all.
Oh, it's a minefield, isn't it? Blending.
Absolutely.
It's just something that we all think we can do, but and so, well, here's the question then. Given the opportunity, well, probably the answer is yes, I would imagine. Would you own a distillery? Would you break out on your own?
Yeah,
absolutely. Tomorrow, if we could.
Yeah, even not even to be Bràithrean, but I mean to be something else, just a side event as such.
Yeah, I mean, I think Andy and I have spoken about this. Like that is like if you dream big, that's like our end goal is to have a distillery. You know, like I do think that or we both think that small distilleries likes of Daft Mill and community-owned sort of distilleries that are popping up all over the place now, it's the way forward. People will have, you still have the big players, of course, but people are shopping differently now. People are looking for local sort of produce and smaller sort of companies, family-owned, community-run sort of stuff, and I think that is what people will look for in the future as well. So we'd love to be involved with that. You know, we can't be Diageo. So we wouldn't compete that way. We'd like the idea of a small single estate farm distillery.
Yeah, because nobody. I mean, is that not what we want as whiskey lovers? Really, I mean, the question asked then, or the question would be, you know, is it money or love you want? Really, I suppose it's as whiskey drinkers and whiskey lovers. The thing was, and this was something that a question that I wanted to ask you much later on, but I think I asked you earlier, and I said it, that everybody here, pretty much the ethos, as far as I could see it behind the Bràithrean, was we're whiskey lovers. This is what we've done. This is what we've decided to do. And I had this big finale that we're all whiskey lovers here, but none of us had the balls to do what you've done. But it's something that you can. I think you could do both almost. I mean, what you're doing now. I mean, you can be whiskey lovers and whiskey producers. I look at it, and I've had this bitch and this moan from an Irish point of view. I don't know how much you guys look around or outside of Scotland, or how much you are.
To be honest with you, I've had a few Irish whiskies, but Andy's he's a big fan of Japanese whiskey.
Yeah. No, I think I don't know much about Irish whiskey or too much. I think it's just interesting to try all these different whiskies, you know, from different regions and different places, and every place has their own take on it. And I think that's something, especially what you're saying about this sort of small single farm distilleries. When you get to this sort of high corporate level, you know, with the big players, it starts to make everything sort of the same sort of marketed. You know, it's the same package, marketed slightly different. Or I think it just the small single farm distilleries. There's just greater variability, you know, in what you can get.
See, my what I was leading up to was that my argument, or not necessarily my argument, but my beef is at the minute in Irish whiskey is that you're looking at a shit ton of independent bottlers who are claiming to be distillers, you know, because they're sourcing, and it's. I understand that they've a name, but all they are is technically taking independent. You know, all they're doing is taking in other people's whiskey, bottling it, putting it out under their name, and at some point you will have that. So, what I love about what you guys are doing and what all the independent bottlers are doing is that you're taking. It's not. There's nothing hidden. Everything's there for us to see and know, especially what you're doing. I don't know if anybody has missed. This is the one bottling that I do have, the Bràithrean, wee brother Ben Rennis, and I love the map. I love it's the simplicity of it. And it's not just, as I said, I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. I'm not making you guys out to be the best in the world. I love what all independent bottlers are doing. I think independent bottlers are sort of becoming the thing now that a lot of people are looking to, because they know that they're getting their money's worth.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think your point on the map is a big thing for us, and it was our friends that helped design that. They designed the label for us, and we're very happy with the map. It's something that we wanted to give like a massive nod to where the whiskey's from. Like, we've only taken it so far. You know, we have influenced the flavour, the characteristic of the whiskey, but you can't forget where it's came from and where it's been distilled. You know, it's something that we sort of highlighted from other independent bottlers, and maybe it's a bit different in Ireland, but even in Scotland, a lot of them do name the distillery, which is great. But we kind of felt sometimes it was secondary, and maybe too secondary. Like, there's not enough prominence from the distillery. We kind of wanted to have the map to show, like, this is from somewhere. It's not just to do with us. It's got a story. It's got history. You know, like a big nod to the distillery, and also so that when people are looking at the bottles, you know, you see a lot of independent bottlers, and if you see all the bottles lined up, they kind of all look the same. Whereas you want to have some sort of difference between them all.
Yeah, no, I fully understand that, because I actually I have a brother-in-law who's certainly right now working down the rum line in Scotland. And,
nice, cool.
And they're going through that process of what to do with the marketing, etc. You know, and sorry, the one thing I did want to say before I went too much further was I noticed a comment from my good friend Tony, and what I do in this, what I tend to do in the Monday Malt samples is drink a sample from somebody, and I'm actually on. There we go. The 80 Bràithrean, the Stoisha.
Nice.
And this was a sample from my good friend Tony, Drams and Draws. So that's what I've been working on. And yet again, I just love the fact that it's the not stripping away with chill filtration, and you know, there's most cases there's no color at it, and yes, you'll maybe spend a little more on your independent bottling, but you're guaranteed the natural product. That's
yeah.
But I took this month to do a reviewing of independent bottlers, and it's yet again, my language, it's a fucking minefield. I don't swear often on these things, but it's a minefield.
That's what makes it exciting.
Yeah, this is the thing. It just because most of them are so limited, and you know, you can say, right, let's take this one, let's take that one. It just beautiful but limited.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned as well earlier the Ben Rennis that we bottled, that you've obviously got a bottle there, but it's something that a lot of independent bottlers give. You know that Benrinnes is primarily for blends.
That's right.
It's a fantastic single malt. So you know, it's something that independent bottlers do bring a lot to the table.
So that's 100%, Andy. That's something that I noticed. I like to do my research on the whiskey, and when I did when I looked into that, Benrinnes are one of those distilleries that you'll not see out there. You'll not just go and buy a bottle of them.
No.
And that's something else then that people are looking from independent bottlers is the opportunity to buy that whiskey that's not going to get tasted. It's not going to come off the shelf, and when people like yourself are bottling it, happy bloody days. It's something that we can get a chance to actually try. And you said it earlier on about the flora and fauna. It got great reviews, so given the opportunity, and it doesn't act. I mean, the Benrinnes is a prime example of something that doesn't act like a Speyside.
No,
and I've already had comments. As I said to you, I've reviewed it. It'll go out this week, and coming from my patrons, I've said, 100% doesn't act like a Speyside, but plays, it plays a good whiskey. So
absolutely,
I was going with that. Anyway, I'm sure that's something else to ask you. Yes, well, we're cutting on the hour here, but I was going to ask you this, but I sort of don't know whether I want to now. But are there any upcoming releases that can be discussed, or are they all very secret?
There's lots happening behind the scenes. There's probably too much happening to speak about just now. I think what we have said is the next bottlings, the next pair of brothers, one of them is definitely a good summer dram. And someone might have given a bit of a hint away in some comments earlier. So yeah, it's exciting. It's gonna be good stuff. We can say there's 3 more coming for this year. 3 more sets of brothers.
Right.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. Excellent. That's I wasn't expecting it, because it's the sort of thing that, as I said, you guys are only 2 years old as such.
Oh god, don't feel it.
And there's another 3 for this year alone is, I would have said, a big number, especially the fact it's not just if it was 3 bottlings alone, that would be something, but the fact that it's 3 split bottlings,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
is something better still.
Yeah, I mean, it's I guess that's kind of a benefit of how we do it, although there is more costs involved with splitting the cask, having to put it into a new cask, but it's not too far off in terms of 3 bottlings would be of big bottlings. I guess it makes it more limited as well.
Mm-hmm.
But there is benefits to sort of doing that, where we're getting more whiskey out of one cask in terms of variation, just not in terms of volume.
No, 100%. No, as I say, guys, it baffles me. I understand how the distillery works. That's tough enough, how the distillery works. How guys like yourselves take this on and make a thing of it on your own is just something else to me. And I think it's to most people in the chat. I'm actually glad that most of them seem to be like myself, outstanding about how you are doing it.
It's good fun. Like we're having fun. We're honestly having so much fun. And that's like we've from the start, we've got none to lose. Like, it's just a bit of money that we started with at the start, and if we lose it, we lose. We've got, as Andy said, we've got loads of whiskey to drink. We're having fun. We get to try samples. We get pick casks we want to finish things, and I'm sure any whiskey drinker like Jim, what would you love to see finished, and what would you finish it in? Like, is there not something that you thought, oh, I wonder what that would taste like?
See, no, you're 100% right. You know, it's one of those things, and it's a question that I'm going to ask very soon myself. I had that question in my head about how would you go, you know, about it, and you guys are doing it. It's take a cask, see what you like, and finish it the way you like it, and the hope that it's timing too. But I mean, that's something I did want to ask. How long? I mean, would you guys now look at something and say, right, we've got a cask of something good there. Let's just let it sit there, and we'll maybe look at it again in 10 years from now, or are you? Is that too long to?
No. Yes, I mean, it's about both. I mean, we do have some casks that we will sit for a few years yet. In terms of, you know, our latest releases, we try to, you know, we have to buy aged stock. You know, stuff that should be ready to bottle, and you know, as soon as we buy it, we draw a sample, and you know, we'll decide based on our own tastes. You know, does that need longer? And we'll take all the samples and we'll sort of try and order, right, in a few months this will be great. Once we add that finish in a smaller barrel, that won't take as long, you know, to impart all of that flavour, so we can release that then. Scheduling, I think, is the tricky part of it. You know, I would say scheduling is a tricky part of it, but as Brendan says, you know, we base it off of our own tastes, and I think as long as we keep doing that, we can't really go wrong.
Happy days. Happy
Definitely.
days. No, listen, guys, as I say, I just applaud you. Can't applaud you enough. I just think it's for you guys as you are. I wish I had the balls to do what you have done whenever and it's something that you're laughing, but I think most people in the chat here wish they could do what you're doing. You know, it takes an awful lot, doesn't it, to take that love that stage further and say, let's do this with it. And then that's where a lot of them go. And I mean, you look at Douglas Lang, you look at the other ones that are stretching out and going, well, let's take it that stage further and become a distillery. Let's buy a distillery. Signatory, you know, a while back, you know, and they all become something bigger. Fair play to them and fair play to yous. And I know, as I say, from what I've sampled and from what I've heard, you guys are doing all right. So
just got to make sure it continues. I guess that's the hard bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, they might not all be brilliant, but.
And how do you enjoy the Benrinnes? Or is that for your review?
You'll have to wait to Wednesday and find out.
No, it's definitely the wee brother turned brilliant. I think it's definitely one of my favourite. That's why, unfortunately, that's a terrible thing to say. We've only got the big brother like left, even for us, like open bottles. I don't know. I've not got any wee brother anyway. Do you, Andy?
You know what I actually did, and I finished it myself. So again, one of the perks of being your own independent bottler.
What way do you decide that? What way? I mean, like this is limited bottle. I mean, you guys are sort of laughing about it. That here's our, you know, we've got X amount of bottles of this. There was only 75 bottles of each, wasn't there? On the Benrinnes. That's very, very limited. Like, you know, if you said and I was sharing sample. I was gifted that bottle from Drew, who's in here, and I'm quite happy to tell. I'm quite happy to say that was gifted that bottle, that he had bought it from us and gifted it to me. But I immediately had or picked up on friends in Scotland saying that they're massive fans of Benrinnes, and and so I shared a sample back to them, you know. So it was all it's all getting spread around, and you just, I mean, this is brilliant for you guys. It's just people are just wanting to pick up on you guys straight away, because it's, to me, as I said, you guys have picked on the right distilleries. You've got the right casks from the right places at the right time, and people want to buy it. Hopefully.
Mm-hmm. No, it's good, and it's great to have people like chat about it. As I like to think, like, we kind of want to break down that stigma as well, that whiskey is like a posh old guy's drink. Like, it's totally not, and anyone should be able to drink it, and anyone should be able to enjoy it, and like have a conversation. We're hoping to spark a conversation about how it works and how we do it. You know, it's not, you're not the first person to ask like questions of like how we actually do it. And I like to think it's like an approachable subject, and so it should be. It's like you should know the ingredients of your drink and how it's been matured.
100%. All I want to do is talk about it, and unfortunately, unfortunately, I don't have enough friends who want to do the same.
That's
well, listen, guys.
Examples then.
Listen, guys, hang around for 2 minutes, and I'll chat to you behind the scenes, if you wouldn't mind.
Not at all.
Brendan, Andy, honestly, an absolute pleasure to have you here. It really is. It's usually the first guys from the actual business who I've had on and it's been brilliant to speak to you, because I've wanted to get an insight into independent bottling from somebody on the way up, rather than hearing it from somebody who's there, or somebody on the way down, or some, you know. And I think a lot of the people who have been in the chat are the same. We only ever hear it from those established, if you know what I mean.
Totally.
It's different from those that are working their way up, because it's a crazy business. So no, good to hear from you. So guys, as I say, thank you very, very much. And I think I speak for everybody in the chat, and I'd say the same, that we'll speak to you in a minute.
Cool, thanks.
No, yeah, thanks very much, Jim, and thanks to everyone in the chat as well. You know, we've seen some really kind comments coming in there, and
it's great. Wishing
us all the best, and no, it's been good.
Happy birthday to Brendan once again.
No, happy birthday.
Thanks.
Speak to you in a minute, guys.
Cheers. Cool. Cheers, Jim.
Yes, folks, it's been, as I say, that all happened a little racy for me. I generally like to get a chat with guys, but both Brendan and Andy were very busy today, so it all just kicked in at the last second. Thank you all for joining me once again, as usual. And it was really, really good to chat to those guys. It really was. It's, as I said, I like to break whiskey down. I like to break these things down, and that was good for me to know. And I'm going to go in and ask these guys probably a few more questions, whether they like it or not. I'll be back in April for something else, probably. Until then, hold on. Here's to your good health. Cheers.